Now, since the release of FPL, I've been tinkering around with a Haaland and Salah draft, and I honestly think I've found the perfect team for game week 1, so let's dive into it. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we're close to hitting our start of season goal, which was at 15,000 subscribers. So of course, if you are new around here, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Taking a look then at my mini league for this season, we're going to be giving away a mystery prize to the winner. Of course, as you can see, the code is on screen if you want to join our mini league for this season. There's also one for channel members as well, so if you are a channel member, check the most recent posts that we've been doing for channel members, and you will see in the code for that one. And there's a special prize just for the channel members as well. Let's head then into Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland themselves, and why you might want to go a draft for both. And I think there's one clear reason. For me personally, like to have the best captain in FPL every single week. I think it's one of the easiest ways to do well in the game. If you've got the best captain, or at least somebody that represents the best captaincy option, you're going to stand yourself in a really good chance of course, winning that week, or winning potentially, the mini league, or of course, doing exceptionally well in your overall rank. And I think having both Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland offers you that. Now, obviously, Salah was a beast last year and was pretty much perma-captain for most of the weeks. And I think match day 1, he probably is going to be the most popular captain. The game week 2 and game week 3 fixtures, though, Newcastle away and Arsenal at home, don't fill me with too much confidence from an attacking perspective. Now, I know Liverpool have added reinforcements to that already strong line, but I still feel like they're not ideal fixtures to be looking in terms of a captaincy. Now, maybe Salah blows them out of the water and still absolutely smashes it. But looking on the other side, you've got Tottenham, who were very, very leaky last year, and I don't think it's just going to be fixed overnight. Same with Brighton as well. They weren't a prolific, strong defence throughout the course of last season, so you've got two decent fixtures there that, of course, rival Mohamed Salah in terms of captaincy. And I think people are actually forgetting Haaland had a pretty decent year, to be honest, considering he only played 31 games. 22 goals and 3 assists. It put him third in terms of the overall golden boot race as well for the campaign. So the guy didn't even have a bad season. And you do feel like that City squad was a little bit leggy towards the end. It lost most of its creativity. You think with the new additions that they've added, they could be back and fully firing ahead of this season. And Haaland could be in for a year like he was his first year in FPL as well. So I definitely think, that is some room for thought there, to be honest. And when we look at the 11-a-fide data as well, we can see here that Manchester City actually top the opening 6 match days. And one of the main reasons as well is that, there's not a week where Chelsea actually get kind of, fully close to either topping Liverpool or Manchester City. It's only match day 3 where really that happens, where it's 1.84 and 1.83. So that probably would be the alternative week where you don't look at Salah in terms of a captaincy option if you went for the obviously the Salah and Palmer route. So looking at this, you would obviously captain Haaland in match day 2, match day 3, and then you probably would go for match day 6 as well with Haaland with 2.7, the highest of that week as well, and also the highest of match day 2. So that is, again, another reason I would potentially be considering picking up Erling Haaland and Mohamed Salah. Like I said, that captaincy matrix, getting it right, getting the correct balance is going to be huge, especially at the start of this season. If, of course, you want to take a look at more data involving captaincies and predicted points, one of the best tools I used last season was, of course, Fantasy Football Hub. Now, at the moment, you can go and get your team rated for free in the description by their AI tool. It lets you know which players, of course, to be looking at. And like I said, if you want to be targeting predicted points for your captaincy matrix this season, which I did last year, and it worked really, really well, then like I said, I would highly recommend going and checking out their website. Okay, wasting no time, let's dive into the team then. Starting off, it's going to be a little bit controversial. We've gone for 2 4 million potential playing goalkeepers. Now, of course, as pre-season does progress, we're going to find out whether or not these two are first choice, whether or not Leeds United decides to buy another goalkeeper or stick with Carl Darlow. And obviously, we've got Kinski as well for Spurs as well. Now, Thomas Frank gave him and Vicario 45 minutes within their first pre-season game of the season. He also said after that game that he was very happy with Kinski's performance and could see him as a potential first choice goalkeeper as well. We are going to see Spurs in the Super Cup before the start of the season, so we are going to be able to see who is going to be that number one, because you feel whatever goalkeeper starts that game is probably going to be the leading man. But definitely something to monitor over the course of pre-season, because if we can get 2-4 million playing goalkeepers, I think I might genuinely go with both on my draft and just save the money, that extra kind of 0.5 or 1 million in the case of what my current draft has with Sanchez in. So I think it's definitely worth doing, especially with this one as well, with, of course, trying to get Mohamed Salah and Erling Haaland within the draft. Heading into the back line then, as you can see, we've got Goalkeeper, Udogie, Wan-Bissaka, Konza and Senesi. All these guys rotate exceptionally well, and if you haven't watched my 4.5 million defender video, I would highly recommend doing so, because I pretty much went through all of these guys in thorough detail. But as you can see, I'll bring it up on screen right now. This is what we went through. It is, of course, my kind of spreadsheet, if you like, that contains goal involvements, XGI, and of course those defense contribution points for last season. Wan-Bissaka, as you can see, 8 goal involvements, decent underlying data, and definitely could pick up some defensive contribution points, so there's a very good reason that he is extremely highly rated. Konza, no kind of attacking threat, but no defensive contributions. But the reason I like him is Aston Villa's fixtures from match day 1 to game week 8 are really, really good. They only face one of last season's top 5, which is Newcastle in match day 1. We're obviously going to be benching him for that one, but after that I feel very, very comfortable playing Konza in all of those fixtures. Not like Villa are a bad defence as well. In terms of our other defenders, we've obviously got Senesi. If you remember back to not last season, but the season prior, he actually picked up 9 goal involvements. He only started 13 games and already came away with 6 defensive contributions. And with Zabani potentially on his way out, and of course, Dean Huijsland already leaving the club, you do feel like he's probably going to be one of the starting centre-backs this season. As you can see down the bottom as well, we've got Udogie, but the guy I really want to talk about is going to be the Cooper. Like I said, 4.5 million for him, 6 goal involvements last year. The year before that had 11 assists in the Belgian Pro League. But look at the XGI that this guy is putting up. 11.8 is absolutely ridiculous. Some midfielders that we're probably going to talk about throughout the course of pre-season didn't even manage to put up 11.8 expected goal involvements. The guy's an absolute freak, and I think if you can nail down a place within that Brighton squad, which is looking heavily more likely now, of course, that Estrapignon on his way out, this guy could be a serious gem at the back. Moving into our midfield, and as you can see, this is a pretty decent midfield, to be honest. We've obviously got to start off with Damsgaard first. I've been kind of tooting the horn the whole of pre-season about Damsgaard already, and I imagine if, of course, Visser leaves the club and he is confirmed as the penalty taker, I think his stock is only going to rise at 6 million, so 1 million cheaper than I would probably say Brentford's most popular asset right now, which is going to be Kevin Schade. Took all their free kicks and corners last season and managed to pick himself up 12 goal involvements. Brentford, of course, have just appointed their set-piece coach as manager, so you imagine they're probably going to be playing for corners and free kicks even more. And like I said, if he can get penalties as well, at 6 million, he could be genuinely a real gem for this kind of opening week. Mohamed Salah, like I said, is going to be our captain for match day 1 against Bournemouth, who potentially could be a little bit disjointed, like I said in the previous section, with Zabani potentially on his way out. Of course, they've already lost Dean Huijsland, and his numbers last season were absolutely phenomenal. Eze's in here, and you know what, again, fits that talisman profile that I always look for with a lot of my players. Every time, you know, Palace probably score, Eze's got some sort of involvement. Towards the back end of last season, he was absolutely phenomenal, real talent, and it does look like he is potentially back on penalties ahead of Mateta as well, so really fits that criteria. The opening 3 fixtures aren't ideal for Crystal Palace, but overall I'm still happy to have him in the side, and I think he could be a bargain at 7.5 million. Morgan Rogers is a player that I covered on my TikTok earlier. Make sure you go and follow me over on there as well. We're posting daily on YouTube and TikTok at the moment. Some real good content coming out on both platforms. But I said he felt to me like one of the most essential players to have, given the fact of Villa's run, given the fact that he's a pretty regular starter as well. 37 games for him, 37 starts, sorry, last season for him as well. 19 goal involvements. The guy was an absolute beast for large parts. 7 million feels about the right price for him. But like I said, given those Villa fixtures, and given the fact that Watkins is probably a little bit out of reach, especially with this draft and the other players we have got in there, I definitely think like Rodgers could be a fantastic option. Finishing up our midfield then, our bench option is going to be Reinders, who joined Manchester City from AC Milan. Now, there are doubts whether or not he is going to play, whether or not he's going to be within the starting squad. But if you look at the numbers that he put up last season at Milan, they were very good. 14 goal involvements in Serie A last season for a side that finished 9th as well. Not even, a top 4 side. They finished 9th. The guy was absolutely carrying their team. I remember owning him in Champions League Fantasy as well last season. So a pretty decent gem. Coming in at 5.5 million. You do feel if he's going to be nailed for that first game as well, given the other starting players we've got within this squad, you definitely could get away with maybe activating your bench boost. It probably wouldn't be the best one, but if you're not too keen on the chip this week, you've got pretty much a playing defence there. You've got Reinders who you think potentially could play against Wolves and potentially could get something out of that as well. So overall, I don't mind that as a kind of, opening gambit, to be honest. So I'm all for it, to be honest. I'm all for it. And finishing up the Haaland and Salah draft, it is going to be João Pedro, Haaland and Dominic Solanke. I think João Pedro and Dominic Solanke are pretty template across the board at the moment, and for very, very good reasons. We saw what João Pedro is definitely capable of. If they sell Jackson as well, you do feel like he's probably limiting his competition really to Liam Delap, and I do think he is ahead of Liam Delap. He's currently the most selected player within the game as well, so it does feel like the sensible decision potentially just to have him, even if you're not 100% keen on him. Just kind of, keep yourself a little bit safe at the start of the game with rank. Of course, if it doesn't work out, there are plenty of other players around that 7.5 million price tag that you, of course, could potentially switch over to. We spoke in length earlier about Erling Haaland and his potential for captaincy. I've actually got the fixture wrong there. It's Wolves away, not Wolves at home on the graphic. But again, if you're fancying Haaland for the opening day, could also be a decent gambit in terms of a captaincy shout for match day 1 as well. I actually think he's got a pretty good record against Wolves off the top of my head. I think I remember seeing him score at Molineux a few times during his short stay already within the Premier League. Of course, as well, Wolves were one of the worst sides for XG conceded. They've lost quite a few important defenders within their backline as well. So it could be a real romp for Manchester City. And like I said, one of the main benefits of course, having Erling Haaland is the fact that I think he's around 18% owned at the time of me recording this. So he's going to be a huge differential for you and your side. And like I said, could be one of those players that massively pops off in game week 1, 2 and 3. Finished up then, it is going to be Dominic Solanke. I really like Solanke as an option. I think if he can get himself penalties as well, he'll be an absolutely fantastic asset, coming in at 7.5 and arguably has one of the best fixtures as well in match day 1. It's actually got the second highest projected goal numbers according to the 11-5 model, and I imagine when the bookmakers do come out as well, probably going to be in a similar position for him. So a pretty decent option. Again, very similar with João Pedro. There's a lot of players kind of priced around 7.5, around the kind of 6.5 as well, so there's a lot of maneuverability within that front line as well if of course João Pedro and Dominic Solanke don't work out. Let me know what you think of this Haaland and Salah draft. Let me know if there's any players potentially missing, but overall I think I've hit the mark with this one. I think it looks like a real good draft.